CEDH time here. I'm Braden.
I'm Zach.
Today we're going to be going over our tier list for CEDH. We're going to give you straight. I'm not going to hold back at all. Any other things I'll say before we get started?
I'm just excited to be talking about good CEDH decks and maybe some not so good decks, and maybe encourage people to play some of the good ones.
I would agree. So we didn't just rate these decks. I think it's really important to note off of like conversion rate or win rate for tournaments. We did take those into consideration, but we looked at the overall strengths and weaknesses of every deck. We base these off of 4 major tiers. And if you watched the last video, agency, speed, adaptability, and consistency. All right, let's get into these fringe decks, man. I think people are gonna be a little upset, but here we go. We're gonna uncover the fringe decks. If you want to go ahead and start off your thoughts on them, here we go.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh boy, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of decks in here that I personally would not want to like register for a tournament, but decks that I think would be a lot of fun to play at like a more casual commander night. I think Hashaton is like an example of a deck that's a lot of fun, but maybe not your most optimal Esper option. I think most of these fringe decks, they just kind of suffer from having better options in their colors and kind of glaring weaknesses.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't want to waste too much time on these fringe decks. Same with the pub stomp decks. Once we get to the tier 2, you get some pretty decent decks here. So we'll go ahead and go to the pub stomp decks. And notably, you're going to see some really good lists in here that people consider to be absolutely amazing. For example, Crick, right there in the middle of the pub stomp list. And you might be going like, wow,
Yep.
Brayden, that's like OP. That's so good. You're using a life to cast these cards to win the game in Turbo. You get to play Solitaire, and people have to watch you. It's like, yeah, but Blue Farm does the exact same thing with Adnaz. You use your life to get massive card value, and you win the game.
The issue with a lot of these pub stop decks, they're great against, local commander players, but maybe in like a tournament, they're not going to be so good because they lack on the axes that we talked about, right? Like Timna Darko. It's got a lot of speed and explosivity. It's got some consistency, but it's really lacking in pivot ability and it's really lacking in agency. With Crick, like you mentioned, it's all speed and explosivity. It doesn't really have access to any other angle of attack other than go.
Yep.
So when you limit your options in the deck building stage, you don't have to do that to yourself,
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Some decks are just like super simple, like Godo. Count to 11, win the game, or attempt, right? Or a Tully. Dinosaur. RNG, throw it on the stack, baby. But in reality, when you're going against really, really good players, it's a lot more difficult to hit the windows of opportunity to win when you're piloting these decks. Not saying you can't get wins, it's just there's way better options when you're putting money on the line to go to a tournament.
Exactly. Yeah, these decks will absolutely get wins at the table if you sit down and Godo is there. You gotta respect that he can win the game with 11 mana. He starts getting close. He's got 9 mana. Like you don't just be like, oh, he's playing Godo. It's no big deal. But you are limiting yourself when you choose these decks.
Tier 2, here we go. It's a little bit better decks here.
Yeah.
What do you think about these
Let's
decks?
start. I think these decks are all pretty interesting for sure. I think let's start with Green Goblin.
Yep.
So this one's a nice, quick Grixis deck. It's not like as fast as Roxai, but it's a little bit faster than some of your other Grixis options. Green Goblin's got a really powerful effect. Playing stuff for cheap from your graveyard, it wins the game when you discard enough cards.
LEDs
So it's really nice.
Part of the game in this deck.
Yeah, but I feel like the other Grixis options kind of are more powerful. So it kind of suffers from just being a suboptimal commander.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I guess the next one we're gonna go with. I think I kind of want to talk about Tayam a little bit here.
Yeah. How do you feel about Tayam?
I think Tayam is insanely slept on in the pod, which is why I think it has a decent like win rate and conversion rate. And people don't respect it and they don't know what it does. So they have slight brewer's advantage. And
yeah,
the point of no return versus Tayam is kind of shady if you don't understand the combo very well. And it's kind of RNG what they're going to get off the top, so people kind of let stuff slide. When in reality, you got to get rid of this thing. It's a problem. They're a really greedy deck. The only way that they can like help the table is if they're like activating their Tayam, and that's not good for the table.
Right. They're going to put in a stacks piece that's good for them and bad for you. It's a lot like Magda where they're like, I'm gonna help, and then they put in Godfair statue. And it's like, wow, you stopped him, but at what cost? Now you're just gonna win. So you really shouldn't have allowed Magda to put in that Godfair statue at all. And it's kind of the same thing with Tayam.
Yep.
You don't want to let them help. It's rough to play against. Yeah, you kind of have to hate it off the table.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like with Magda and with Atali and with Tyam, don't get gaslit. Okay, don't let them do the thing that they're trying to do. Don't do it. At least with Blue Farm, it's sometimes you have to like politic. Yeah, fine. I'll let your Timna through and hit me for life because I need you to draw a card to deal with this going on over here or that going on over here. Right? There's some give and take when needed. But with these greedy decks, these gaslighting decks, there's no give and take.
How about Master of Keys? What do you think about Master?
I think if you spend enough time on Master of Keys, it can be super powerful. Abdel Adrian loops are not very common in like top end CEDH, so it takes people by surprise. It's a slight brewer's advantage. It's a really controlled deck, so you have that going for you. I think in order to master it, you have to really understand what things you have to interact with and when, because just because you have interaction doesn't mean you should use it in every sort of situation.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of Esper in general, honestly. You got to be very particular and very mindful about what you're interacting with and like how your game actions are going to affect not just like the next turn, but the player after that, right?
Yeah, I think it would be higher on the list if it wasn't so difficult to pilot and play. I think that Marnie
It's
and
just,
Pivot are kind of just easier, simpler game plan.
yeah, for sure. Not having to worry about the graveyard.
Yeah,
Master of Keys gets a lot of really interesting cards out of the graveyard as well. Like you see stuff in Master of Keys that you're not going to see in a lot of other decks. Like you're seeing Amphibian Downpours coming out for Master of Keys, and it has a really interesting effect on the game when he's in the pod.
I would agree. Yeah, I don't like hate to see it in the pod. I don't love to see it. Like I'm not like, oh yeah, Master of Keys, I'm gonna stomp this game. Like I don't think that ever. I think like it's a good pilot. When I see Master of Keys, I think okay, they must be a good player if they're comfortable bringing that to a tournament.
Yeah,
Or like if I
exactly.
see like a Magda or like an Atali, I think okay, they're just a greedy player, or like a Crick, they're just a greedy player trying to just win games, hit their head against the wall, and say, "Do I win yet?" You know, that's it. Like, but
Yeah,
Master of Keys is like that's some skill.
no, exactly.
Anala, another good one, I think, is slept on. One card combos are always absolutely nuts. You have to make sure, though, that you're hitting the right window. Just because you can turbo with one card doesn't mean you should, because there's a high chance there could be a Ristic or a Fish and a Smothering Tithe all on the field, and you're just giving your opponents an insane amount of resources for you to start your combo off, just for them to stop you later and say, hey, thanks for casting out all your spells. I just got like several grips of cards because of it, but you still can't win.
Yeah, you got to be careful not to just like randomly push when you're playing a fast Grixis deck like an Awe. But yeah, with a great pilot, I think this deck is a serious threat. It's really fast. You got to respect it.
I would agree. All right. And then with Derevi, it's one of those commanders that's really cool. There's some people who just die hard Derevi players, which I wholeheartedly respect. However, like you would think that like Dog Thrass is kind of just a better version of it. You can put Derevi combos in the 99 of that list. I like both. I don't have a problem. It doesn't really bother me if you're hard stuck on Derevi versus Dog Thrass. I respect it. I like it.
Yeah, I think the Rebbe is definitely it's slightly different from Dog Thrash. It's kind of attacking on a slightly different angle, where it's like a little more combo centric and a little less value centric. Where like Dog Thrash is definitely interested in establishing a port state and kind of building incremental advantage. Dravi's like, dude, here's a meal. What are you gonna do?
All right, tier ones. Let's see what we got here. Boom.
Oh yeah, we got some proper decks in this little section here.
Now, out of all of these decks, the clown, it's on the borderline for me. Now, I know some people are like, this
Yeah,
might be better than Blue Farm. Look, they're delusional. It's not better than Blue Farm.
you're
But
tapping out to play Kafka. This is scary.
you're tapping out to play Kefka, and that is a massive window saying, please just come and absolutely cuck me because I have nothing else going on. And that is just super
Yeah.
dangerous, trying to get another turn after that. If you can, make it happen, good for you. If not, though, and people capitalize on that window, I've seen that negatively affect the table, especially when sometimes when you open up that window, you're also limiting your opponents from interacting with the other person trying to go for the win because you just took away their resources. And so sometimes it's like I've had opponents show their hands to be like, hey, look, I have two pieces of interaction. There's a Rog Thrass or a Blue Farm player, and the Blue Farm player has a Ristic with 12 cards in their hand. They're going to discard one or two if you flicker it. and it's not going to hurt them at all. But with me, my Mind Break trap's gone and my Fierce Guardianship's gone. Like, do you have interaction to stop them, or do we need to not like have the Kefka trigger flicker? Like, do you need to like not cast a flicker spell here? And it's a kind of an awkward situation to be in for sure.
And Kafka's often going to get greedy and just be like, "Fuck you, I'm flickering it. Somebody's going to have something," and then like the game just ends.
Yep.
It's one of the problems with Kafka. Outside of that, I think it is a very powerful engine in the command zone. If you can get a turn where you have a double Kafka trigger, you're going to draw like 6 cards. If you have some answers, like the amount of tempo you gain from that is huge. Kafka definitely has things going for it.
100%.
But
if you're going to try to win the game, if you're going for the win right now,
like it's better than Kess, you know, like it's doing Kess things, but better.
Way better. There's a huge skill gap between really good Kefka pilots and like newer Kefka pilots. I think Zerda is one that people aren't going to think of as like an A+ deck. Super great, really high win rate, super fast, kind of like Kinnan, really, really fast.
Yeah. This deck converts like crazy. The pilots that are dedicated to this deck are doing really well with it. If you see this in a tournament, be afraid. And if you want a cool turbo deck,
try it out.
This is a fast one. It's a good one. And people who don't know about it, they're not going to respect you, and you're going to win on turn 2.
Yeah, 100%. We got Yoshi Thras, Marnius, Tivit. I mean, all pretty standard, good, well done decks. I think that there are versions of these decks. Like Marnius suffers from like newer players coming in and putting in a lot of like fringe cards in their 99, like dragging the win rate down. But a really good pilot on Marnius who keeps their list super tight is really, really good. I think Kenrith is super awesome because you can build Kenrith in lots of different ways, and you never really quite know, because it's like one of those 5-color good stuff lists, what they're going to bring to the table. And any dedicated Kenrith player is something that you should take note of at a table. Like, you should never underestimate a good Kenrith player.
Yeah, it's a deck that is always going to be performing all right. When you see it at the table, they're probably one of the better pilots. I think these are all pretty solid decks that, like, they're 4s and 3s in the, like, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5 when it comes to explosivity and, like, consistency. They're not quite at that 5 out of 5 tier, but, like, they're fantastic decks where you're not nerfing yourself that much.
And I would almost put Clue Farm in the tier S. We need more people playing Clue Farm for me to really be like, hey, this is like an S tier deck. But honestly, it does everything that Blue Farm does.
Yeah, same colors. You've got a 2-mana commander, which is actually a big deal in terms of like accelerating your game plan, where you can maybe be presenting a little more aggressively on turn 2, where your Fierce Guardianship, your deflecting SWAT is going to be online more consistently, or you'll have more consistent access to Culling the Weak. The fact that you make clues is not nothing. Like, there's some synergy with Grinding Station. So the deck is really interesting. It's just like a little bit faster, kind of more proactive bent on Blue Farm.
Yeah, and like I said, this is like the one in A+ tier where I'm like, I want to push this to S tier. I want people to be playing this, and if you're newer to CEDH, you want to kind of get a deck that's like not as well known, but still insanely powerful, Clue Farm might be that deck for you. So if you're newer, anything in the S+ and above, I'm like hard recommending. Anything in the A tier, it's like, yeah, I can kind of recommend it. Minus Tyam, and then Pub Stomp and below, I'm like, I would never play those in a tournament for money. But if you want to bring them to like an event, sure, do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much how I feel as well. All the A+ decks are legit decks to like spend a lot of time getting really good at, and maybe not so much with the Pub Top decks.
I will say, out of all the decks that have the less amount of agency, Rocco is the top. If you want just in the Grand Abolisher in the command zone, then you play Rocco.
Gotta keep track of their board state. Look how many dorks they have. What happens if Village Bell Ringer comes in? Like, you just gotta think about all the different angles that Rocco has, and communicate with the table when Rocco is on the stack. Like, hey, look, this is a win.
Rocco says, hey, like, I'm not going to get a Grand Abolisher. I'm not going to get a Voice of Victory. I'm going to do X's 3, okay? They're going to get a fucking Cutzel or a Ranger Captain of Eos. Like, don't trust them, okay?
Yeah, exactly. I've got by that. The first time I ever played against Rocco, I got by Cutzel.
All right, the S tier. This is the best tier. All right, here we go. Boom. All right,
yeah,
so I think
decks.
First and foremost, Kark Silas, Expert Pilot, S+ and beyond, okay? That's slightly memeing. It is an insanely amazing deck, and I do have a cracked win rate with it, and it is super powerful. But I'm not seriously putting it there. I do think though that it is an S tier deck. People disagree. It is what it is.
I've seen it in
And
action.
yeah,
It's pretty damn hot.
specifically the Magecraft version, not the Adnos, not the Necropotence version. Okay, it's the Magecraft version of Kark is absolutely insane. But ignoring that, I think notably when looking at this list here, you see like the kind of 5-color good stuff that you see in there. There's 3 of those decks.
Wandering Minstrel and Terra.
These decks are kind of all very similar. They're kind of like Kenrith, but I would say easier to get your commander out than a Kenrith typically, and they do add you some value. They're kind of the only deck that's not, I guess, like a 5-color good stuff exactly is the Wandering Minstrel, because it has like a whole Lumra package or like a Kobold package like built into it, which makes it super powerful. I think that there's a lot of, I think the data for this is misunderstood, because a good player running these lines, understanding these lines, are going to be insanely high win rate when they're on that versus a deck lower, like a lower tier on this list. Like you have way more agency, flexibility, and decisions that you can make and impacting the game with running any of these 5-color good stuff than these other decks below us.
Yeah. 5-color good stuff is just so powerful. Like a lot of these Esca and Terra lists, they're going to be more turbo focused. Having a cheap commander helps with that, of course. They're going to be like fast ad nauseum, a lot of cards in common with Blue Farm, and then maybe a few green options, like a couple mana dorks and maybe a culling ritual. But for the most part, you're looking at a 4-color shell. You got a couple green cards, and you're just looking for a fast necro, fast ad nauseum, fast Ristic. Basically Blue Farm with a little bit more just like good stuff in it. I mean, it's great.
Yep. And then your turbo decks in here, Kinnan, Ral, and Rogside. So these decks should be played turbo. So Kinnan, all these new players coming in doing big flips Kinnan, not the ideal. If you're playing big flips Kinnan, you're probably sitting at like a pub stomp to like a tier 2. If you're playing like high value Kinnan, it's looking at an S tier deck. They're supposed to be played turbo.
Yeah, that's definitely how I feel. I mean, you see Comedian actually having a lot of success with Turbo Bent Kinnan list lately, and I think it's starting to catch on a little bit. I think the No Bad Cards Kinnan is also an S tier deck, where that's like a little bit of a slower deck. It could present an early win, but it's typically looking to maybe present early Ristic Study instead. I think, yeah, that's kind of how you want to replay Kinnan, either fast Basalt or fast Ristic. This is tough, and I like that you can build it multiple ways. You got your kind of like classic legends and planeswalkers and silliness, and then you've got the kind of Sisay that I think is a little more interesting, which is your really fast turbo Sisay, where you're looking for Necropotence, you're looking for Ad Nauseam, you're looking to perhaps bring in a Teferi off of Sisay. I think that style of play, the Clam Chowder Sisay, is super interesting. It is a really scary, powerful deck.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you could be on that, that's crazy.
Exactly. You have like a little bit of Brewer's Advantage, but like in a good way, because it's a great deck with like another look or take on that deck that's not ass.
Yeah, and people are gonna, they're always gonna ask you pregame, like, "Ooh, are you on Planeswalkers or is this Chowder?" And you don't have to fucking tell anybody what you're on.
You can straight be
Wouldn't
like,
you
"Oh
like
yeah, I'm on Planeswalkers," and then here we go, Chowder baby, let's go. It's amazing. TNT, crazy good. It's getting good cards added all the time to it. Swifter configurations, like your main go-to line with Devoted Druid. Super awesome, super powerful. People for some reason shied away from this deck for a long time, but like in reality, there's been complaints that these commanders can even be paired together. Like they're so good. And I don't think people realize that this is just like Blue Farm. It is that good in my mind. Like, okay, same level basically.
Yeah, no, the ceiling is just right up there. You got a 4-color pile. It's got the ability to present really early fast wins. It's got the ability to present a really grindy game plan. It can grind just as well as Blue Farm, if not better, with access to Thrasios. It's just a crazy powerful deck. It's got a 5 in everything. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is absolutely fantastic. So these are the tiers that we've come up with, and I'm excited for to go through this throughout the year and kind of switch things up and talk about different cards that are made and where different commanders kind of rotated or switched in. But currently, I think this is kind of the list. Yeah, it is number 1.
Yeah, I feel like this deck does everything. It's Grixis, it's Esper, it's fast, it's slow, Grand Abolisher on the stack, Ristic Study. Like, Yeah, every day I play this deck, I learn a little more.
You can keep an amazing first 7 and be the most insane, crazy deck in the world, or you can keep a pretty good 4 and still be insane and powerful and dominate the game. You can mulligan
Yeah,
so hard on this deck, and so don't be afraid to hard mull.
yep, you got to go low. 2 good cards is all you need. That'll be enough to win you the game sometimes. So yeah, Timnacrom. If you're new to CDH and you're like, what should I play? Timnacrom. That's what you should play. It's a deck that's worth learning.
It's also a low ceiling to entry. The hardest part about this deck, when you're a newer player playing it, is your mana base. Looking at your hand, and when you crack your fetches, knowing what land you need to get. If you can do that reliably, then you can pilot the rest of the deck. And then the cool thing about this deck is you're gonna massively improve. You're gonna be like, oh, I could have done. I just lost, but if I would have done this instead, oh my gosh, it would have been so different. And then you're gonna do that next time, or later when you're playing, and then it's gonna turn out great for you. And then you're gonna get stumbled again. Then you're gonna be like, oh man, oh, but if I would have done this instead, it actually would have been better. And this deck is gonna grow with you. And I think everybody should try this deck out. That's something.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I feel. It really just goes to show the power of agency and consistency, honestly, because Blue Farm is probably the deck with the most consistency, the most agency, and yeah, it's just a great deck to improve with.
Thanks, Zach, for joining us. Excited to continue going for more CEDH content with you.
100%. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm always happy to do it. Take care. Thank you for watching, guys.